Sometimes a connection enters your life so quietly that you barely notice it at first. A glance, a brief conversation, a moment when their presence aligns with something deep within you, and suddenly the world seems to tilt as if the air itself is holding its breath. You do not know why, and yet in that instant you feel recognition. Not of who they are exactly, but of something within yourself that has been waiting, hidden, dormant, and longing. It is subtle, almost imperceptible at first, like the faint vibration of a distant string or the soft hum of a tuning fork that only your body can hear. You might notice the way your chest tightens for a fraction of a second, or how your mind, almost against your will, recalls memories, patterns, and emotions you did not know were there, linking them to this person as if your past had been quietly preparing you for this moment. These are the connections that feel meant to be, not because of circumstance, not because of logic, but because your entire being responds before your conscious mind even has a chance to question it. It is strange, isn't it, how some presences linger in ways that words cannot capture. You can sit across from someone exchanging ordinary sentences, and yet your mind senses a resonance, a rhythm that matches your own internal cadence, as if two melodies that have been humming separately suddenly find a harmony that should have always existed. You may feel the weight of unspoken understanding, the subtle pull of shared energy, even in silence. Have you ever noticed it, the way a person's laugh can reverberate within you, stirring something ancient and familiar? Or how a gaze can land on you with a precision that bypasses thought and taps directly into your own nervous system? That inexplicable pull, that sense of inevitability, is not merely imagination. It is an orchestra of perception, memory, emotion, and intuition playing in quiet synchrony. The brain, the body, the very chemistry of your being responds to stimuli that your conscious mind cannot yet name. And in that response, you experience the first whispers of what feels like destiny. And yet, it is easy to dismiss this. Logic tells you that people meet by chance, that the world is a series of random collisions, and that the pull you feel is coincidence, chemistry, or projection. But deep down, you know that something more is happening, because these moments leave marks. You remember them long after the event has passed. You replay them, analyze them, and feel the echo of their presence in ways you cannot fully articulate. It is in the pauses between words, in the faint alignment of gestures, in the imperceptible mirroring of posture that the truth of these connections hides. They operate beneath the surface, in the currents of your unconscious mind, guiding your attention and shaping your awareness. Almost as if some hidden compass were pointing you toward the person who matters in ways you cannot yet define. This is the quiet power of the connection that feels meant to be. It is subtle, pervasive, and impossible to ignore once you recognize it. Notice how these moments make you feel simultaneously energized and unnervingly calm, aware, yet unknowing. Your heartbeat shifts, sometimes imperceptibly, sometimes with a sudden leap, aligning with the rhythm of another's presence. Your thoughts may scatter or sharpen with unusual clarity, and your emotions, though not yet articulated, hint at something larger, something that seems orchestrated by an unseen hand. It is a tension that you cannot name, a vibration in your internal landscape, and it leaves you asking questions before the mind has prepared the answers. Why do I feel this pull? Why does their presence matter more than logic allows? Why does this encounter feel inevitable, as though it were written long before either of you arrived? These questions hover, unanswered but insistent, shaping your perception and creating a subtle anticipation that builds with every glance, every word, every shared silence. Before we dive further into why these moments feel predestined, take a moment and notice your own experiences. Think of the people who have passed through your life with inexplicable weight, those encounters that seem to mark you without explanation. How many times have you brushed past someone only to find their presence lingering in your mind for hours, days, or even years? How often have you met someone whose energy, whose rhythm, whose presence felt like a mirror to a part of yourself you rarely show to anyone else? These are not coincidences. They are signals, whispers from the subconscious, nudges from the patterns of your own history, biology, and perception. And if you want to explore these hidden forces with me, to understand why some connections feel fated before logic intervenes, go ahead and subscribe. Leave a comment about a connection that has lingered in your mind. Share it, even if just for yourself, because the act of noticing is the first step toward understanding. Let's begin by looking at the forces that shape these connections, forces that operate beneath your awareness, yet guide your heart and mind with a precision you cannot yet fully comprehend. There is something happening beneath the surface of ordinary perception, a quiet orchestration that aligns timing, energy, intuition, and emotional resonance. This is not coincidence, and it is not mere attraction. It is a subtle dialogue of existence, a conversation between your inner world and the presence of another. And it is waiting for you to notice. Some connections are rare, and they pass through life with a gravity that cannot be denied. But to understand them, you must first learn to observe, to feel, and to recognize the invisible threads that tie your consciousness to theirs. Only then can you begin to see why certain encounters feel as though they were always meant to be, and why, in the quiet moments, they leave marks that will shape the way you move through the world forever. Your mind is constantly scanning, even when you are not aware of it. Every glance, every gesture, every subtle shift in tone or posture is catalogued, stored, and compared against the vast archive of your experiences. When you encounter someone whose presence feels startlingly familiar, even before a word is spoken, it is your brain quietly noticing patterns. Threads woven long before consciousness took over. You may not see it, but neurons fire in synchrony, creating echoes of recognition that your awareness only later names as intuition, attraction, or inevitability. The process is precise. Micro-expressions, the curve of a smile, the subtle cadence of speech, the way a person leans slightly forward when curious, all signals that your subconscious passes instantly, registering compatibility before your conscious mind can catch up. It is as if the body recognizes the other person first, and the mind only follows, attempting to justify the resonance it already feels. Notice how quickly you can feel drawn to certain people, how your chest tightens, your heartbeat flickers, your pupils dilate imperceptibly. These are not random physiological responses. They are biological acknowledgements of patterns, of rhythm, of energy that aligns with your own. Mirror neurons fire, empathy activates, and your body rehearses the potential of connection silently. You may find yourself finishing their sentences in your head, predicting their pauses, anticipating the rise and fall of their intonation. And when they say something, it lands with a sense of inevitability. There is a precision to this process that often feels magical, yet it is entirely rooted in the architecture of your nervous system. The brain is wired to notice, remember, and anticipate. And when someone resonates with it, a subtle resonance occurs across mind and body that creates the first spark of meant to be. Have you ever experienced an encounter where, from the very first seconds, it felt as though the person had always existed in the same mental space as you? Perhaps you are speaking, and yet you feel that they are already completing the sentences that matter most to you, that their presence alone articulates what you cannot yet say. This is not mere imagination. It is the neural orchestra of recognition, familiarity, registering even when context does not yet exist, past experiences quietly aligning with present signals. Your amygdala and hippocampus catalog minute details, storing emotional associations, and your prefrontal cortex begins calculating compatibility, patterns, and potential alignment. It is a dynamic conversation happening below awareness, one that your mind experiences as a feeling of inevitability, of connection that transcends circumstance. The tension in this unseen recognition is subtle but profound. It is not loud or forceful, it whispers. It manifests in moments of hesitation, the slight tilting of the head, the fleeting rush of warmth when they make eyes contact, the unspoken acknowledgement of mutual attention. Your internal rhythms synchronize, your breathing slows or quickens in imperceptible ways, and your mind experiences a faint, almost magnetic pull toward them. The world around you blurs slightly because the focus is no longer just external, it is internal, a mapping of subconscious patterns across both your histories and potentials. It is a process that is precise, quiet, and relentless, and it leaves a residue, the lingering sense that meeting them was never random. Consider the timing of these encounters. Often, they happen in moments when your attention is heightened, your emotional state is attuned to subtlety, and your awareness is not cluttered with distraction. You might notice the alignment of chance and perception, the way a corridor seems empty except for them, the way a glance arrives at exactly the right moment, the way their energy fits a space your own presence has prepared. These alignments are not coincidence. They are the emergent outcome of your mind's constant pattern recognition. The brain detects similarity and resonance faster than logic, faster than conscious thought, faster than you can name. When the signals align, shared gestures, compatible energy, mirrored emotional states, your awareness interprets them as fate, chemistry, or synchronicity. And yet there is another layer. The patterns your mind recognizes are not merely superficial. They connect to your own history, your experiences, and your internal architecture. Subtle cues can trigger memories, long-forgotten feelings, and emotional patterns that align with the person you are meeting. Perhaps they remind you, unconsciously, of someone you needed, someone you admired, or someone who shaped your sense of trust and intimacy. Your body remembers before your mind does, responding with the urgency of recognition, sending signals that you interpret as "this feels right" or "this is inevitable." It is this invisible thread, the constant mapping and registering of subtle compatibility, that lays the foundation for the sense that some connections are predestined, that they carry meaning beyond chance. Before we move deeper into the emotional dimensions of these connections, pause for a moment. Consider the times you have felt this resonance before, the moments that lingered in your memory long after the encounter ended. What was it about that person, that energy, that subtle alignment that felt familiar yet mysterious? These experiences are not anomalies. They are the result of a sophisticated, ongoing process that your mind performs without your permission, cataloging, comparing and responding in ways that shape your perception of destiny. It is here, in this quiet recognition, that the first threads of a meaningful connection are woven, invisible yet potent. And it is here that we begin to understand why some relationships feel as though they were always meant to exist, even before either of you fully realized it. There are connections that make your heart feel light, even when your mind cannot explain why. You meet someone, and it is as if your soul remembers them before your thoughts can catch up. It can be in the way they smile, gentle and unhurried, or how their voice lands like it belongs in the same space as yours. Sometimes it is in the small things, the tilt of their head, the rhythm of their breathing, the way they notice the tiny details that no one else sees. Your body reacts first, a quick flutter in your chest, a subtle warmth in your hands, a tightening of the stomach that feels familiar but impossible to trace. These moments are often quiet, easy to overlook, yet they leave a mark. They create a sense that something larger is happening, something you cannot yet name, a feeling that these people are not just passing through. They are here for a reason. Your emotions play a larger role than you realize. They guide you when your mind is unsure, when someone fits into your life with a natural ease. It is not only comfort you feel, but also recognition. Recognition of patterns you may not even know you carry. Maybe they remind you of someone from your past, not in a copying way, but in the way your heart once learned to trust and feel safe. Maybe they bring out parts of yourself you keep hidden. It is subtle. The way laughter comes easier, and conversations flow as if you have known them for years, even when hours have just passed. The energy between you does not need explanation. It simply exists, strong and steady. And this is what makes some connections feel meant to be. They echo through you in ways that are not visible but cannot be ignored. Sometimes these feelings are confusing. You may find yourself wanting to explain them or analyze them, but words often fail. You notice your thoughts racing, trying to solve a puzzle your mind cannot yet reach. Why do I feel this way? Why is this person so important? You cannot name it because it is not just logic. It is emotion, memory, and instinct working together. Attachment plays a part. The brain is wired to notice safety, trust, and familiarity. When someone matches the rhythm of your feelings, when they respond to your moods without effort, your body interprets it as alignment. Your mind labels it as destiny or magic, but it is biology and history at work. That is why some people feel like they were always meant to be in your life. They resonate with the inner patterns you carry, patterns shaped by everything you have experienced, every person who mattered before them. Even small gestures can trigger this recognition. A hand lightly brushing yours, a shared silence that feels comfortable instead of awkward, a glance that lands in a place your eyes only let a few people see. Your nervous system notices these signals and reacts before your conscious thought catches up. You feel it in tiny bursts. A pulse, a shiver, a quick intake of breath. Your mind then follows, trying to understand, trying to make sense of why your heart and body are aligned with someone else so quickly. That is the secret of these connections. They are felt first, understood later. They speak through energy and emotion before words ever arrive. It is also in the timing of emotions that this bond forms. Maybe you meet them when you are ready, when your mind is open and your heart has space. Or maybe they appear when you are struggling and your awareness is sharper, more sensitive to subtle signals. Either way, the alignment is quiet but powerful. It creates a sense of inevitability, a feeling that meeting them was always meant to happen. You are noticing patterns that your mind has been seeking all along, even if it didn't know it. Ask yourself now, think of a time when someone entered your life and something inside clicked. Did you notice your heart tightening, your body reacting, your thoughts aligning with theirs? That is the beginning of resonance. That is why some connections feel like destiny. They are not random. They follow the hidden paths of your emotions and attachments, paths you have walked quietly for years. It is subtle, gentle, and impossible to ignore once you recognize it. And as you begin to notice these signs, you start to see how much of the world works beneath your awareness, guiding you to the people who belong in your story in ways that are felt long before they're understood. There is a subtle tension that arises when a connection feels meant to be, and it is unlike anything else. It is not loud or dramatic, but it hums beneath the surface, a quiet pressure that makes your body and mind pay attention even when you try to ignore it. You may notice the way your thoughts circle back to this person, how memories of shared moments or fleeting glances linger long after the encounter has ended. The effect is almost magnetic. Your awareness shifts without effort, drawn by forces you cannot name yet cannot deny. Even the smallest action, a brush of a hand, a fleeting look, the rhythm of their footsteps, can feel charged with meaning, as if the universe itself has conspired to place you in the same space at the same time. What makes this feeling so disorienting is that it defies logic. There is no clear reason, no identifiable explanation, yet your body reacts as though the truth is obvious. Your chest tightens, your heartbeat quickens, your breath catches just slightly, and your mind registers it as more than coincidence. There is a pull, a gravity, and a tension that grows with every interaction, subtle yet relentless. The brain, in its quiet wisdom, notices patterns long before consciousness can articulate them. It records the alignment of energy, temperament, and timing. And in doing so, it whispers that something in this moment with this person is rare, meaningful, and intentional. You may not understand it, but your nervous system knows it, and it reacts with a precision that feels almost unfair. Contrast this intensity with ordinary encounters. When we meet most people, our minds measure them with casual observation, noting superficial traits, voice, mannerisms, and appearance. Yet these fleeting measurements rarely trigger the deep resonance that signals a connection meant to be. Those moments are gentle, almost imperceptible, microseconds where alignment occurs, unnoticed by most, but impossible to ignore once felt. perhaps you. Notice how they laugh at exactly the right moment, or the way their presence seems to fill a room without demanding attention. The alignment is so precise that even silence becomes charged. Every pause, every lack of action, every glance carries weight. In these encounters, the ordinary rules of interaction are suspended, replaced by something richer, quieter, and more compelling. There is also the emotional edge of anticipation. When someone resonates with you at this level, you notice the tension between knowing and not knowing. You want to understand, to label, to capture it, yet the connection resists explanation. It hums beneath the surface, growing in intensity, and in that waiting, the mind and body are heightened. You become hyper-aware of every gesture, every word, every slight shift in attention. The pulse quickens in moments of recognition, slows in moments of hesitation, and holds steady in the shared silences that feel more intimate than any conversation could be. That tension, the combination of mystery, recognition, and anticipation, is what gives these connections their unmistakable weight. Timing plays a critical role. Often, these encounters occur when you are most open, most attuned to subtle cues, or when circumstances align in ways that feel impossible to predict. Perhaps it is during a quiet walk, a chance meeting at a cafe, or a moment when your attention is undivided and the mind is not cluttered by distraction. These moments are delicate, fleeting, yet they leave impressions that persist far longer than the time spent together. Every detail is encoded by the body, every reaction catalogued by the mind. The smallest alignment, a shared pause, a synchronous movement, a complementary rhythm in conversation, creates a resonance that can feel preordained, even fated. This resonance extends beyond mere attraction. It is a meeting of inner landscapes. Your habits, your fears, your joys, and your intuitions converge with theirs in a way that feels inevitable. Your past, present, and future all seem to fold toward this intersection. You sense it in the way your instincts guide your attention to them, in the quiet satisfaction of their presence, and in the lingering questions that occupy your thoughts long after they are gone. These moments do not scream for recognition. They quietly insist that they matter, that they have meaning, and that ignoring them would be a subtle violation of your own awareness. As you notice this tension, consider how it shapes your actions. Perhaps you find yourself lingering in the space they occupy, listening more closely, watching more carefully, anticipating rather than reacting. Perhaps you become more present, more attuned, because something in your system knows that this connection is rare, that it is not ordinary, and that it cannot be recreated once missed. There is a responsibility hidden within these connections, a quiet, unspoken call to attention, to awareness, and to care. And when you begin to recognize the patterns, when you allow yourself to observe without forcing understanding, you open yourself to the possibility that some connections are not just accidental. They are the subtle weaving of forces, timing, and recognition that brings two presences together as though the world itself arranged it. There is a quiet intensity in the way some connections unfold, a rhythm that does not announce itself but insists on being noticed. You may find yourself thinking about them at odd times, your mind drifting to fragments of conversation, gestures, or laughter that seemed insignificant in the moment but now carry weight. These fragments linger, almost vibrating, and you feel drawn back to them without understanding why. It is in these subtle currents that the sense of meant to be takes root, not in grand declarations or dramatic gestures, but in the small, persistent reminders that someone matters more than logic would allow. Your body, your mind, and your emotions are all attuned to this rhythm, sensing alignment long before words could ever explain it. Sometimes it is in the way they respond to your presence, almost unconsciously. The tilt of their head, the slight catch of their breath when you enter a room, the way their eyes seem to find yours in a crowd. These are not mere coincidences. Your nervous system picks up on patterns of familiarity, rhythms that mirror your own, and signals a resonance your conscious mind has yet to articulate. You may feel a warmth spreading across your chest, a subtle pressure in your stomach, or a lightness in your hands and feet. These are the body's markers of recognition, signaling that your internal state has found a reflection, a vibration that matches its own. It is in these quiet physiological responses that the power of connection lies, unseen by others, but undeniable to you. Contrast this with ordinary encounters, and the difference becomes clear. Most interactions are fleeting, surface level, and easily forgotten. A smile is just a smile. A laugh is just a laugh. A glance passes unnoticed. But with certain connections, every movement, every inflection, every pause carries significance. Time seems to bend slightly around them. A brief encounter can feel as expansive as hours, and yet pass in a blink. Silence is not empty. It is filled with subtle acknowledgement. Words are not necessary. Understanding exists beneath speech. The tension between knowing and not knowing grows, and with it a quiet sense of awe. It is the body and mind recognizing something essential, a harmony that ordinary logic cannot capture. There is also a profound emotional depth to these connections. They reach into the corners of your mind that are rarely visited, touching fears, desires, and memories that have long lain dormant. Perhaps it is a sense of safety you did not realize you were craving, or the reminder of joy that has been tucked away beneath routine and habit. When someone resonates with you at this level, emotions unfold naturally with subtlety and precision. You feel calm yet alive, grounded yet expansive. There is a tension, yes, but it is a tension that brings clarity rather than anxiety. It is as if the presence of another person opens doors in your own psyche, revealing layers you had only glimpsed before. Timing plays a secret role in this unfolding. Encounters rarely feel forced. They arrive when you are most receptive, when your internal rhythm is ready to synchronize with theirs. Perhaps it is in a quiet moment when you are alone yet attentive, or during a shared experience that draws your attention inward as much as outward. The alignment is almost imperceptible yet precise. The cadence of speech, the angle of gaze, the subtle matching of energy all converge in a way that feels fated. Each detail, each micro-expression, each pause in conversation contributes to a resonance that you sense in every cell of your body. These moments are delicate and fleeting, yet they leave an imprint, a mark that persists long after the encounter ends. Consider how your mind anticipates these moments without effort. You may catch yourself imagining future interactions, recalling past ones with unusual clarity, or feeling a rush of familiarity in ordinary spaces. These anticipations are not random. They are the mind and body rehearsing resonance, testing alignment, and reinforcing recognition. The subtle energy between two people can carry weight, even in silence, shaping your expectations and your perception. The patterns repeat, and each repetition strengthens the sense that something is inevitable, that the connection is meant to exist, not merely by chance, but by the careful orchestration of internal and external alignment. It is in this interplay of anticipation, recognition, and resonance that some connections reveal their power. They teach you to observe, to feel, to recognize the hidden currents that guide interactions. They reveal that relationships are not only built on words or actions, but on subtle alignment, shared rhythm, and the invisible ways in which two presences interact. You sense it in your chest, in the quiet pause between sentences, in the instinctive understanding that arises without explanation. And when you begin to notice these threads, to recognize their subtle weaving, you understand that some connections are more than coincidence. They are quiet, inevitable forces guiding you toward people who matter deeply in ways you may not yet fully understand. There is a quiet power in the way certain connections endure, even when the world around them shifts. You may notice it in the way a glance lingers longer than expected, or the way a touch carries memory as well as presence. It is not always dramatic, but it is persistent, a tension beneath the surface that insists on attention. You feel it in your chest, a steady pressure, a subtle warmth that hums along your nerves. Even in silence, their presence resonates, filling empty spaces with meaning you cannot name. Your mind may attempt to analyze, to classify, to place it within the limits of reason, but the feeling refuses confinement. It is alive, organic, and undeniable. Connections that feel meant to be often reveal themselves in small, almost invisible ways. A shared joke, a mutual pause, or a moment of unspoken understanding can ripple outward, shaping your perception of the world. Perhaps it is the way their breathing syncs subtly with yours, or how their energy adjusts to the room, as if to harmonize with yours. Every tiny alignment reinforces a sense of inevitability. Your body notices before your mind does, the quickening of the pulse, the soft tension in your shoulders, the warmth of anticipation at the corners of your awareness. These subtle signals are catalogued, remembered, and replayed by your subconscious, creating a web of resonance that feels larger than either of you, stretching into spaces beyond immediate understanding. Contrast this with fleeting encounters which pass without leaving much trace. Ordinary interactions are measured, predictable, and forgettable. A smile does not echo, a word does not linger, and the silence between sentences is simply empty. But when someone aligns with you at a deeper level, every gesture matters. The pauses, the glances, the inflections, all carry weight. You feel it in the rhythm of your thoughts, in the way your chest tightens and relaxes, in the quiet anticipation that builds without effort. The world seems slightly sharper, edges clearer, colors more vivid, as if this alignment illuminates the space around you. Even a brief encounter leaves a lingering sense of depth, a subtle knowing that these threads are not accidental. timing continues to play a critical role. Often these connections appear when your own awareness is heightened, when your senses are attuned, and your mind is open to subtle cues. You notice the precise moment their energy intersects with yours, a pause in the conversation, a shared silence, the perfect inflection in a laugh. The alignment is so subtle that others might overlook it entirely, yet you feel it in your core. Your nervous system recognizes a mirror of itself, responding to rhythm and tone, gestures and energy. You notice your own heartbeat adjusting, your breath slowing or quickening, your thoughts following their trajectory. The connection is not only observed, it is embodied, integrated into your very presence. Emotional resonance deepens this bond. It is not simply about attraction or familiarity, but about the ways two presences can reflect and amplify one another. You notice it in shared moods, in the ease of expressing joy or sadness, in the comfort of silence that feels active rather than empty. Their presence validates patterns in your own emotional landscape, creating a subtle synchronization that feels effortless yet profound. Your mind may attempt to understand, to label it as luck or coincidence, but the body already knows the truth. You feel a connection that spans beyond circumstance, one that echoes into spaces of your memory, your imagination, and your intuition. Subtle tensions can also emerge, moments that test the strength of the bond. Differences in timing, misunderstanding of cues, or external pressures may introduce friction. And yet, these tensions often illuminate the depth of alignment rather than weakening it. You notice how the connection bends but does not break, how it adjusts and accommodates, how it maintains resonance even under stress. The quiet intensity persists, guiding both of you toward balance, shaping awareness, and deepening understanding. Take a moment to reflect on this. Recall the subtle cues, the small alignments, the quiet resonance that has persisted across moments, places, and experiences. Notice the ways your body has recognized it long before your mind could name it. Notice the rhythm, the tension, the anticipation, and the recognition. It is in this space, in the quiet yet insistent pulse of connection, that some relationships prove their meaning. These are the connections that are not merely experienced, they are remembered, integrated, and carried forward. They are the threads that persist, invisible yet unbreakable, guiding you toward experiences, understanding, and people who feel as though they have always belonged. Some connections arrive like a whisper in a quiet room, subtle enough to pass unnoticed by the world, yet undeniable to the heart. You may find yourself recalling moments that seemed ordinary at first, a shared glance, a brush of hands, a synchronized laugh, and realizing later that each of these moments carried weight beyond comprehension. They are the echoes of alignment, the signals your mind and body recognize before your thoughts can catch up. These moments leave traces, subtle imprints that resonate in your chest, your stomach, your pulse. You feel them in your bones, in the pause of your breath, in the quiet thrill of recognition that someone exists in your world in a way that feels inevitable, as if they were always meant to arrive. As you reflect, notice how often these connections arise in unexpected spaces. Perhaps it is a crowded street, a quiet cafe, or a fleeting moment between tasks. The environment itself seems secondary. It is the interplay of attention, presence, and recognition that matters. Your senses sharpen, the tilt of a head, the weight of a step, the inflection in a voice. These subtle cues accumulate, weaving a tapestry of resonance that feels larger than any single action. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, because the connection transforms perception itself. Colors seem brighter, laughter seems fuller, silence seems charged. Every small detail amplifies the sense of significance, reinforcing the feeling that some encounters are not mere chance, but quiet orchestration. Timing, again, plays a critical role. These connections often emerge when you are most receptive, when your mind is open and your heart is sensitive to the rhythms of subtle energy. You notice it in micro moments, the way they respond, the ease with which conversations flow, the natural synchronicity in movement and gesture. These patterns are not accidental. They are signals that your inner world has met a reflection outside itself, creating a resonance that feels deep, familiar, and persistent. Each alignment, each recognition, layers upon the last, building a sense of inevitability that is both thrilling and disquieting. There is also the emotional depth that cannot be ignored. In the presence of someone who feels destined to be part of your life, emotions unfold naturally, without effort. You feel safe to express joy, vulnerability, or quiet thoughtfulness. You notice how their presence amplifies or stabilizes your inner state, bringing clarity, calm, or unexpected insight. Small gestures, an attentive gaze, a pause that feels shared, a laugh that mirrors your own, carry emotional weight that echoes long after the encounter ends. You feel it in subtle tension, in gentle anticipation, in the quiet expansion of awareness that follows. These connections are not fleeting. They leave lasting impressions in both heart and mind. Contrast this with ordinary interactions where attention is scattered and moments pass unrecorded. In regular encounters, smiles and words exist, but rarely resonate. Silence is simply absence, not filled with meaning. Yet in these rare alignments, even silence speaks. The absence of forced explanation, of pretense, creates a charged space. Every pause carries significance. Every look holds weight. You realize that these connections are not measured by words alone, but by presence, by alignment, by the subtle echoes that ripple through your body and mind. Notice also the responsibility embedded in these moments. Some connections demand awareness and intention. They call you to recognize patterns, to observe without forcing control, and to honor the subtle resonance that has been placed before you. You may find yourself more present, more patient, more attuned to nuance. These connections teach you to see beyond the obvious, to feel beyond the surface, and to trust the quiet signals of your own perception. As we close, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Think about the people who have entered it unexpectedly, yet left lasting impressions. Notice the subtle rhythms, the quiet alignments, the moments that felt inevitable. These are the connections that shape us, guide us, and remind us that some presences are more than coincidence. They are invitations to recognize resonance, to honor alignment, and to trust the quiet intelligence of the heart and body. Take a moment to notice where these patterns appear in your own life. Awareness is the first step toward understanding and deepening the bonds that matter most. If this video has helped you see these connections more clearly, I invite you to subscribe for more psychological insights and share in the comments a moment when someone entered your life and it felt meant to be. Your experiences help guide this journey, illuminating the invisible threads that connect us. Remember, some connections are quiet, subtle, and persistent, but when noticed, they can transform the way we experience the world. Be present, be observant, and honor the connections that feel inevitable. They are the echoes of alignment, and they have always mattered.